Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of the Commander's Contingencies podcast. Today we have a special guest on. Why don't you introduce yourself, Nathan?
My name is Nathan, and I'm the special guest.
Yeah. So you have two other podcasts, I believe?
Yes, I do.
So if you just want to plug your stuff there, shameless self-promotion.
So I've got two of them. One is called The Cloud, and one is called The Download. The Cloud is like a short news podcast we do every week with my co-host Riley, and then The Download is also with my co-host Riley, and it's just a lot longer. It's just the two of us talking.
Yeah, I will put links in the description for these, and why don't we start with the Commander News. MTG News. The stuff that's happening in the world of Magic. So this week we have... Yeah, I mean, it's all messed up because of coronavirus, like literally everything else in the world, but I mean, they've delayed everything. Not everything. The previews start on the 2nd of April. The full card image galleries, so all of the cards will be spoiled, on the 10th of April. On the 16th, it'll be released on Magic Arena and MTGO. On the 17th, it'll be released on Tabletop in Asia Pacific, and on May 15th, almost a full month later, it'll be released in North America, Europe, and South America.
Yeah, that whole month thing is going to be a hard wait.
Yeah, like how am I going to get cards? I mean, we're just going to not.
We'll just order foreign
ones.
So,
I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I'm just gonna build decks and pretend that I can use them.
Yeah. Or
somebody will probably make a full image. I mean, they have the full image galleries, so most playgroups will probably just let proxies or something.
Yeah, I think proxies will be pretty big for that 1 month-ish period.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think afterwards
and
it won't be too bad.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like for that 1 month, there'll be a lot of proxies going around. But
yeah, there will. So there's another thing. So Gavin Verhey released the second half of his, not spoilers, but teasers, I guess.
Teasers, yeah.
Video. I guess it's not half. It's just two separate ones. So he said
release.
A lot of different things. Yeah, the second one of them. He said a lot of different things on them. Well, first up, we've got a hound that generates fetch counters. That's pretty cool.
I'm excited to
I like the idea, but it doesn't really give me any clues of what it is going to be mechanically.
I'll be honest, even if it sucks, I'm still going to run it in something. Just because I like it.
That seems awesome. Yeah. It seems super fun. Rules text, whenever you cast a spell with X and its mana cost, do something. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of X decks nowadays.
Yeah, and then it's going to fit in pretty much
X,
any Hydra deck.
But yeah. There's what's that commander that's 4 mana and you can tap it for 4 mana, but you can only use it for X? Hold on.
Oh, only use for X spells.
Gruul.
Yeah, it's a Gruul one. It was reprinted in Iconic Masters.
Right. Let's see. I'm gonna pull it up. I mean, there's also a lot of different X commanders. Like Gargos, for example, is often used as that. And even Atraxa can be used for Hydras because of the +1/+1 counter proliferation. Oh, I found it. It's Roshin Meanderer. 3 hybrid red-green for a legendary creature giant shaman. Add colorless to your mana pool. Spend this mana only on costs that contain X, and it's a 4/4. So that's interesting, I guess.
Yeah, that would be a fun commander. I kind of want to build a deck around him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Because realistically, you could get
maybe
him
I'll just
out.
randomly build that next week.
And I mean, realistically, if you're willing to spend the money, you can get him out turn 1,
2. Oh well, yeah, that's true.
If
that's
you're willing to
also
spend.
Unlikely, even if you are. Yeah.
Or if you just get really lucky and pull some good stuff. But then turn 2, cast some good old Hydras.
Yeah, that sounds great.
For 9.
Next up, we've got. There's a cycle of cards that is a reimagining of an old popular multiplayer cycle. I was honestly considering going full insane mode and just sifting through thousands of cards to try and figure it out, but then I was like, old is way too subjective of a word, so I didn't.
Old is really subjective.
I don't know.
One thing I had considered is that maybe it would be like the Battle Bond lands.
A lot of people are saying that, but is that old? I mean, we're talking about 2 years. Is that old enough? I don't know.
I don't know if it's old enough, but I really hope it is.
It does say reimagining too, so it wouldn't be finishing the cycle. It would be changing it up. So it might even be, most likely, I would guess, it's one that is finished. Because that'd just get players really annoyed if they just decided to reimagine one rather than actually finishing it.
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows?
But if they finish those Battle Bond lands, that would be pretty hype.
Oh yeah. They're gonna have to finish it eventually, because people are just yelling at them, do it, and it's a great thing to do. I mean, honestly, it's probably not going to be 3 years because they probably didn't expect the amount of hype, because they have is it a 2 or 3 year delay for designing the products and then actually them releasing.
It's probably, I think, probably in the 2-ish range.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, now that they're, promoting Brawl, that would be something that would fit really well in a Brawl deck.
Ooh,
so if you make it standard legal,
I mean,
it's, it's just a tap land in standard, but in Brawl, it then becomes playable fixing.
Actually, I forgot to say this. I highly doubt it'll be standard legal unless it's a reprint from the main set, which I don't know exactly how that works, because it says these are all for spoilers for new cards, so if it's a new card and in Ikoria and it's in this deck, would that count as a new card? So I don't know, but if that doesn't count, he said that these are spoilers only for the new cards in the commander decks. So I don't know. Maybe, but I doubt it. Okay, next up we have a creature that generates mana you can only use to activate abilities.
Which isn't necessarily a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different cards that are you can only use this mana for this, and they're mostly bad. They're mostly not played. I mean, maybe this will be an exception to the rule, and the card we just talked about, Roshin, isn't... Actually, no, it is pretty bad.
Well, if it has its own abilities on itself as well, then it's non-tap-based abilities. Then I can see it being played in something.
Yeah. They've got a creature that... Oh, I already read that one. 8 non-evergreen mechanics being brought back. So in a future note, he said that experience counters are going to be brought back. That is not included in this. I have got a couple of theories here. The only one I'm really confident about is Evolve. I really think they're going to bring Evolve back, because the theme of building your own monster, the colors... I don't know how the colors are relevant. I don't know why I said that. I just really think with the amount of counters they're bringing back, the amount of evergreen mechanics they're bringing back, I feel like it fits really well. I think they're going to bring Proliferate back.
Alongside Evolve, I could imagine, back in the unsets, there was, what was it called? It wasn't Attach, but it was the half creatures. So it'd be like half cat, half...
Meld?
Yeah.
No,
Augment.
Not Meld. It is Meld? Oh, okay.
I think it was Augment.
Yeah, that would actually be really interesting. Huh.
And I don't see that
could be really interesting, and that as a thing I could see them actually messing with. Yeah. It's not like that likely that they'll mess with it, but it's not like other things in the unsets where it's just like, yeah, they're not going to do that.
I mean, it's definitely a good way you could, build your own monsters.
Right. We've got... Oh, I've heard a lot of people saying there's... what's that old one that if you have, like, two of the same card, they, like, flip over and, like, combine? I don't remember what that card's called. That ability.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was called, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, you have stuff like Brazella that did it. And,
Yeah, and the land.
That's right, there was a land. There was, it was, like, Graph Rats. And something else as well.
Molden Graph Monstrosity?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that one's right.
Yeah, there was a couple things that did that back in the day. So I could definitely see them bringing something like that back.
I also totally think they're going to bring back Proliferate. Sure, Proliferate is, like, quite broken. But also there's, like, 12 cards. There's literally 13 counters in this set. There's 12 that Gavin, or I forget if it was Gavin or Mark Rosewater that said it, talked about in another, what are they called? Teasers, I guess? And there's the one which is loyalty counters from Planeswalkers.
And my favorite type of counter,
there's also...
they haven't said they're bringing back, but I really want them to, poison counters. I really, really want poison to come back.
Oh.
We need a standard infect.
That could be interesting.
I don't even play standard.
Didn't it, like, get completely overtaken last time that happened? Last time there was infect? Didn't, like, standard get ruined or something for a while?
A little bit, I think. Because the thing is, it's, hey, do you want to kill someone in half as much damage? Here you go.
Yeah.
And
the cards that pump creatures are not designed around the downside of, it has infect. They're just designed for it to be equipped to any creature. So, they're not really designed with the drawback in mind. So, I don't know. Could be anything. But we've got some pretty likely ones, I think. Plus, they said that card that gives planeswalkers, like, protection from a player is going to exist in the commander decks. So they're probably going to make some type of Super Friends deck, right? I mean, I don't think it's really going to be a Super Friends deck.
Like, they're just not fun to play against. Because turns take forever.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think it's actually going to be really a Super Friends deck. I think it's going to be a Super Friends deck like the Lands deck. Jund Lands deck was a Lands deck last year. Like, really, it's not. They're just kind of saying it is, and the theme is kind of there, but not really.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I just don't see them reprint or making new... Like, I don't see them putting more than, like, 3 or 4 planeswalkers in the deck. Well, no. I don't see them putting more than 10 planeswalkers in the deck.
Yeah.
That just seems like...
10 seems reasonable. Well,
I don't know.
10 seems like a lot, but it still seems reasonable if that's your goal for the deck.
Yeah, I mean, most Super Friends decks run 15 to 20.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's sort of there. It's just not a strong theme. Like, by strong, I mean, like, super synergistic. I think it's also possible Ferocious Will and Cascade might be back. I remember thinking about it earlier, I had some reason I thought Cascade would be back, but now I completely forgot what that was. So I guess I could just ignore that ever happened.
Cascade would be fun to bring back, though.
Yeah. And next up, he has more of the creature type spoilers. So we've got a whale wolf.
That'll be interesting.
That'll be crazy. Probably Simic, because Simic likes to
it's a very Simic thing to
types. Yeah. Other than that, I have no idea what that's gonna be or what the art is gonna be. It's gonna be beautiful and very confusing. But will it be on land or in water? Who knows? Next up is dinosaur cat tokens. That sounds
I could see that
quite
being
strange.
like mono green.
Yeah, I could. That could definitely be. Yeah. Plus, mono green green in general does like to make tokens.
Yeah. Green likes tokens. Green likes dinosaurs. And there's plenty of green cats.
Yeah.
Well, usually they're green-white cats. Yeah. But there's not a lot of white dinosaurs. So it'll either be green or green-white.
There are definitely mono green cats, and there are definitely mono green dinosaurs. But who knows? Maybe it will be in green-white, because dinosaurs and cats are both in Selesnya. Well, dinosaurs are quote-unquote in Selesnya. They don't really have very many white dinosaurs. They've got a couple, but not very many good ones or really useful ones.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be good to still count as part of it.
True.
Because there's 19 dinosaurs that are in just white.
Oh, really? Okay. That's more than I remember. Yeah.
And they're pretty much...
I guess that makes sense. I can think of a couple that are playable.
Yeah, and they're all from either Ixalan or Rivals of Ixalan.
Well, aren't all dinosaurs from either Ixalan or Rivals of Ixalan except for the eroded ones?
That's a...
I mean, I know they eroded most lizards to become dinosaurs, I think.
They eroded a bunch of stuff to become dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think they eroded regal behemoth and a couple of things. Well,
Alpha
a lot of
Tyrannex
things, but I can't think of very many.
Was a beast, and then it became a dinosaur beast.
Nice.
Dromasaur was a lizard. And became just dinosaur. There's a number of things that they changed from either lizard or beast into dinosaur.
Yeah. Next thing is one legendary card that brings back and uses experience counters. And as I said, that's not a named mechanic that was brought back.
So interestingly, it's a legendary card, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a legendary creature.
Ah, you're right. Honestly,
it could be
at
some
one
sort of
point,
enchantment.
a while back, it could. It definitely could. A while back, I tried to make an experience counter deck, and it didn't really work because all the experience counter commanders don't synergize with each other at all in any way. So it just kind of didn't work at all. Maybe I'll be able to make it happen now. Probably not.
Yeah, maybe this is that one card you need. Maybe it's just a legendary enchantment.
Maybe it'll just make it...
All cards that use experience counter synergize.
Wow, that would be great. That'd work super well.
That'd
Alright, into the decks. Next up is the deck that we are covering this week. So we have a Rafiq deck, and real quick, I'm going to explain the Commander Quest for the new listeners. So the Commander Quest is the eventual goal that I'm trying to reach. I'm trying to make a deck with every single card in Magic the Gathering, with absolutely no overlap. So far, I've gotten through a couple thousand cards, and I've got like 18,000 more, so it's going to take a while. But today we're doing a Rafiq Exalted deck. The Commander Rafiq of the Many is 1 green, white, blue for a 3/3 legendary creature human knight with Exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. So, the idea of the deck is just to cast a ton of Exalted creatures, some Infect creatures, and some Pump, so that I can take my Infect creature and whack my opponents for damage. Well, for poison. I guess it's on theme because, as you just said, maybe poison will come back.
They could bring it back. There's no one stopping them except themselves.
That is true. That is very true. Although I'm pretty sure, it's pretty high up on the storm scale, so who knows? I mean, the storm scale is not a perfect measure. It's just somewhat helpful when making baseless theories. So we've got some a basic land base. We've got a Cathedral of War and some. Actually, basic is pretty accurate because we have 36 basic lands. I usually try not to include basic lands if they don't, or non-basic lands if they don't synergize with my deck, because even when I have been doing this, I've been running just about the number of lands that would be number of non-basic lands proportional to the number of cards, not other cards in Magic. So, I might decide to change that in the future. But we've got a couple of categories. We've got Exalted, we've got Pump, Evade, and Protect. So, Exalted is just creatures that have Exalted, or have whenever a creature you control attacks alone. Pump, Evade, Protect is really 3 categories, but there was so much overlap, I just clumped them all together. My one attacker is the creature that I'm going to attack with that will get pumped. And hindering opponents is just cards that make it difficult for my opponents to do things and barely affect me, because I'm only attacking with one creature.
Yeah, my favorite card from that hinder opponents category is probably Stoic Angel.
Yeah.
Which is...
No, it's great.
It's
like super bad in any other deck.
Yeah, I can't really see running that outside of an Exalted deck.
Yeah. That's the great thing that I've been, honestly, as you'll see when we go over the collection stats, but I made a couple of different ways to measure how playable of cards I'm playing so far in comparison to the average. And all of my measures I'm doing really well on. So I don't know. I feel like I have to be more conservative, because if you look at this deck, you could see someone coming up with this deck. There's a lot of cards in here, why isn't there a Soul Ring in here, for example? You're just why? But other than that, it's got something to it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's always going to be upgrades that you can make to a deck. And so, for example, swapping out some of the basics for shock lands or the battle bond lands would help you with fixing a little bit, and it would help you. It would just give you a better land base. But the actual rest of the deck itself seems pretty solid. I really like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Without actually like really looking at it, it looks like it's a legit deck. And of course, if you look at some of my other decks, like my Stonebrow deck, that was just like literally 62 creatures with trample. Because there wasn't anything else that synergized with it in Magic. So I just put a lot of tramplers in, and that was that.
Trample works.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting pretty effective creatures. I mean, I'm getting +2/+2 on every single creature basically, so it's not that bad of an aggro deck. If not a little bit boring. Yeah. So let's get into the cards. Why don't we start with that Stoic Angel that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so Stoic Angel.
So Stoic Angel, go ahead.
Sorry. Stoic Angel is 1, a green, a white, and a blue for a 3/4 angel with flying and vigilance. And it says players can't untap more than one creature during their untap step. So, considering we're only attacking with one creature per turn, it doesn't matter. We get to untap all of our creatures. And our opponents can't. So if they're running creatures with tap effects, they have to be really picky about what they do and when they do it.
Or if they just use attacking as their tap effect.
Exactly, yeah.
And we've got a couple more cards that have basically the same effect, but not exactly. We have Silent Arbiter and Dueling Grounds. So they both say no more than one creature can attack each combat, and no more than one creature can block each combat. So, as he just said, we only want to attack with one creature. And our opponents probably do care that they can't do that anymore. So, these both just really help stop our opponents. Silent Arbiter is 4 for a 1/5 artifact creature, and Dueling Grounds is a 1 green and a white enchantment. So, that is the hinder opponents category. It just makes it so my opponents can't really attack. Next up we have, I don't know, you pick something.
We'll go to the attackers category.
Pick a category or card. Okay. So, as I have said earlier, my one attacker is the card that's going to get pumped. The card that I'm going to play and is going to get pumped. Obviously, I have Rafiq as a backup, but most of these are much more effective in terms of killing my opponents.
Well, one thing to consider with Rafiq is he is your commander, and if he attacks alone, he gets double strike.
Yeah.
So he's essentially swinging for 8 every turn, just by himself.
Yeah, and with all the pump, such as the Exalted effects, he could get +1/+1 from him. And with 26 creatures, we're probably going to get roughly an average of 2 creatures per game that have Exalted. So he's probably going to be attacking for roughly 12, which is a 2-hit clock with commanding damage.
If we put something on him that gives him Infect, it's a 1-turn clock.
Yeah. Plus, we've got all of these other things that pump him. We've got a lot of other things that pump him in other categories. So he is certainly not a bad backup plan.
For sure.
Next up, we have, I don't know. Do you want to cover the cards in the attacker category, or just skip over them? I mean, basically we have cards with Infect.
Pretty much, if it says Infect and it's in the colors, it's being run.
Yeah. Yeah, plus we've got Cold-Eyed Selkie, which is 1 hybrid green-blue for 1/1 Island Walk, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. A couple other random stuff. We've got Not Vine Paladin. It's green-white, 2/2, and when it attacks, it gets +1/+1 for each untapped creature you control. So it's like giving
it essentially doubles
Exalted,
your Exalted.
sort of. Yeah. I mean, that's the category. I'm just trying to deal this infect damage to my opponents, and hopefully they die soon. So that's that category. I'm just trying to deal damage to my opponents with all of my infect creatures. Infect, if you don't know, is this creature deals damage to creatures in the form of -1 counters and players in the form of poison counters. And if a player has 10 poison counters, they lose the game. So when all my creatures are getting pumped, I can just make them deal a lot of damage. They only have to deal 10 damage to my opponents, and they will die. So I don't know, you pick something. I'm just gonna let you lead it off because I'm so used to doing it on my own. I go off on rants and don't know where to stop. It's not.
So next up we'll cover all the Exalted category.
Okay. So we have. Oh yes, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So these are cards with Exalted. As I read earlier on Rafiq, whenever creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So I just have 26 cards with that exact effect, and some of them have in addition or instead just that effect, but instead of exactly +1/+1, they get some other benefit. Usually it is pumping though. Pumping the creatures, so you get more damage in.
Yeah, so one of those examples of another effect is on the card Ardent Plea, which is an enchantment for 1 white and a blue that has Exalted, and then it also has Cascade. So when you play it, you exile cards from the top of your library until you find something with a lower mana cost, then you cast that for free, and then put the rest shuffled on the bottom of your library.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other effects that just do Exalted, but better. For example, Angelic Exaltation is 3 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So as I said earlier, I'm probably going to get at least, well, actually on average, I'll probably end up with 3 creatures a game. So I'm pumping my creature up by basically +3/+3 when it attacks. So that is quite effective. It gets quite large.
Yeah, fantastic.
Another
one of the highlights from here is Noble Hierarch, which is a single green for a 0/1 human druid that taps for a green, white, or blue and has Exalted.
Yeah.
So it gives you the ramp and fixing that you need, which is great.
Yep. Next, another great example of this is Finest Hour. So 2 green, white, blue for an enchantment. Exalted, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap that creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So, first of all, you're straight up doubling the damage the creature does. And second of all, you're doing more than that, because when the creature attacks alone for the second time on your second combat phase, it's gonna get Exalted triggers. So that works extremely well in this deck. Sadly, double strike can't double. Make quadruple strike a thing. I think triple strike is a thing in the unsets, actually.
Probably. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Just because unsets have fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the previous Exalted buff stays during that second combat.
Yeah.
So you get all those Exalted triggers twice.
Yep.
Which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's a fast way to kill someone. Or maybe even 2 people if you've got enough pump. Because, I mean, you've got an infect creature.
Yeah.
You've only got to deal 10 damage the first time, and then you can deal 10 again.
Speaking of doubling Exalted triggers, one of the cards in here, Sublime Archangel.
Yeah.
It's 2 and 2 white for a 4/3 angel with flying, Exalted, and other creatures you control have Exalted.
Yep.
So all your creatures that already have Exalted have it again, and all your ones that don't now have it as well.
Yeah, and as it says, if a creature has multiple instances of Exalted, each triggers separately. So, what he just said, it will stack. Everything stacks. You just get so many triggers of Exalted. Next, another good card with Exalted is Sovereigns of Lost Alara. So it's 4 white, blue, or 4/5 creature spirit with Exalted, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, you may search your library for an aura card that can enchant that creature, put it on the battlefield attached to that creature, and then shuffle your library. So I've got a couple of auras in here that we will go over in the next category of pumping, evading, and protecting. Is there any other cards that you would like to call out from this category?
I think we covered all the ones that are important.
Yeah. Most of the rest of these are either cards that have Exalted, so my creatures will get bigger when they attack alone, or cards that have basically Exalted. Or actually, I just noticed one. Sigil of Valor is 2 for an artifact equipment. Whenever a equipped creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other creature you control. And it has equip 1. So, yeah, just makes my creatures...
Essentially, another count of
Yeah.
Exalted on everything.
Yeah. Alright, so next up is Pump, Evade, Protect. So this is, as I said earlier, not really one category. There's just so much overlap in this category that I just decided to clump it all together. So first of all, we have some auras that we can grab with my Sovereigns of Lost Alara. So we have a lot of auras that we can grab with it, and other things like protection so that my creatures don't get targeted or just don't die or whatever it is. Why don't you pick a card that is notable?
Yeah, so one of the ones I found to be particularly notable is Aether Tunnel. It's 1 in a blue for an aura. Says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked.
Yeah.
So if you swing, so you have your commander out, and you have one of the 5/5 infects out, you put that on him, and you're swinging for lethal.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything about it.
That's 14 infect. 1 5/5 from the base power and toughness, 1 from the Exalted from Rafiq, and 1 from the power of the aura. So you could just deal that damage and just kill people. Plus, as I'm not sure if I said this already, but I'm running roughly I think I'm running 13 cards with infect in this deck. So most games you will draw one by a relatively good whatever. The point is you'll probably have one when you need it. Next up we have a lot of instants or...
And even if you don't, you're still probably swinging for lethal with how much Exalted's out there.
Yeah. Next up we have some instants that just give my creature pump, and they give my creature hexproof. So we have Blossoming Defense, which is green for an instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains hexproof. And we have Vines of Vastwood, which is green for an instant. Target creature gains Shroud and +4/+4 if you kick it for an extra green. And we have Stonewood Invocation, which is 3 and a green for a split second instant, and it gives a creature +5/+5 and Shroud. So it's just a way to either respond to a removal spell, or to just pump up my creatures for the kill.
Yeah, because +5/+5 becomes +10/+10 once you count in double strike.
Yeah.
Which is great, especially on an infect creature.
Yeah, that is more than enough to kill him. Alright.
That by itself is enough to kill.
That is true. Next up, so we also have a lot of auras that say basically protection from a specific thing. We have protection from creatures, we have protection from all colors, and these, while they can be helpful for removal spells, are mostly there just to give some evasion. Because if something has protection from creatures, it can't be blocked by creatures. So that's just a good way to get your creatures through.
And if it has protection from all colors, it can't be blocked by anything that's a color.
Yeah, that's true. If it's colorless, it can't block it. So that's basically the category. There are also some cards that just pump it, we've got a couple more things. We've got some auras that just pump my creatures and do basically nothing else. And we've got Corrupted Conscience. You suggested this card, so why don't you go ahead and read it? Yeah,
so Corrupted Conscience is probably my favorite card on the entire deck. It's 3 and 2 blue for a enchantment. It says enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. Enchanted creature has infect. So you steal someone's creature, give it infect, and then you can just next turn swing at them with it for lethal, most likely.
Yep.
Because it has infect, and you have so many triggers of Exalted, and it's just such a good card.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. As you said, there's something beautiful about killing someone with their own creature. And you're clearing their blockers, too.
There really is.
So, yeah. You might even be able to attack them this turn, the turn that you steal it.
Yeah, if it's something that has haste.
Yeah. That's basically the idea of the deck. So, you're just gonna cast some exalted creatures. You're gonna cast some attackers. You're gonna cast one of the things that you want to attack with, probably an infect creature, to kill your opponents. You're gonna cast some exalted creatures in Rafiq, and you're gonna use your pumping and evading and protecting to just help you go the final mile and just end off the game. I mean, this deck would be hard to win with because essentially it's a Voltron deck, just not with your commander. And as anyone who's played with or against a Voltron deck knows, it's quite easy to dismantle it by just removing the one attacker.
So that is the one good thing about it being Voltron not based around the commander himself.
Yeah.
Is that if they remove one thing, you still have other stuff around that you can kill them with.
Yeah, you've just got...
And you can always recast your commander for his abilities.
Yeah.
Rather than recasting him just to attack with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that make this better than a traditional Voltron deck. First, we have the fact that we have very little things that we actually lose if our one attacker is gone. We keep our exalted creatures. We only have a couple of auras. The second thing is we have a lot of protection. And the third thing is we have tons of replacement attackers to cast right after and just have it be a perfect replacement. It's not any worse than we had before. And we're not losing anything. We're just casting it again and we're fine. We haven't lost anything except for the couple of mana and one card from your removal spell that's supposed to save you.
Yeah, the only thing we're really weak to is board wipes.
Yeah, that's true. If someone board wipes, we're pretty screwed.
But outside of a board wipe, it's a pretty resilient deck, it would seem.
Yeah. And we've also got, actually no, never mind. We don't have any. Basically the entire deck is creatures, so if we get board wiped, we're losing just about everything. Alright, so it is time to get into the collection statistics. So, in the collection, so far I've gotten 1,300 cards. So that means I've covered like 1/20th of the cards that I have to. So I'm working on it. I'm making progress. It's gonna take me a long time to do it though, to succeed. We've got an estimated value of $1,500. We've got, in terms of color distribution, we have the most red at 251 cards. Then we have green at 204. We have white at 183, blue at 178, and black at 169. Colorless at 219 and multicolor at 96. So this fits somewhat well. We've got a lot more red than we do other colors, but it is closer than it has been the last 2 weeks. Yeah. So we've got, in terms of budget, which is one way that I've been using to measure exactly how playable of cards I'm playing, we have $1,500 and 1,300 cards, so that's a little bit over $1 per card. And as I calculated a couple episodes ago, the average of all cards in Magic is $2.21. So we are definitely ahead of the curve there, but budget is a rather imperfect way of measuring this.
Yeah, because there's plenty of cards that are, printed at common or at uncommon and are great cards, but just aren't very expensive.
Yeah. Budget supplies two things. One of them is popularity, aka demand, and the other one is supply. So yes, while demand is a part of it, and popularity doesn't also mean power. That just means how much people are actually buying it. So while it isn't a great way, it is still one of the best options that I have of a way to look at the cards. I still need to work on getting more non-red decks, but I'm not off by too much. Only roughly 50 cards per color, which I guess is kind of a lot. Alright, so in terms of the distribution of card types, we have 775 creatures, 130 instants, 3 tribal cards, 108 enchantments, 48 lands, 3 planeswalkers, 179 artifacts, and 123 sorceries. So that is actually pretty accurate in relation to the average of all cards, as it has been in the last couple weeks. So in terms of rarity distribution, so in the whole of Magic, there's roughly an equivalent number of common and uncommon and rare cards, and roughly 1/8 of those numbers of mythics. And if you look at mine, I'm again ahead of the curve. If we're using rarity as a power level scale, which it kind of isn't, but it's got some relation to it. So I just decided that's what I was going to do, because it's just another way to look at my progress to see how I'm doing. So I've got 537 uncommons, 422 uncommons, and 307 rares, and 34 mythics. So as I said before, in all of the metrics that I can look at, which sadly is just those two, which are both very fraught with error, I am ahead of where I have to be. But of course, the diminishing of cards, of options, will be a large obstacle. Do you have any thoughts?
Nothing in particular.
All right.
I think that.
All right. It is time for Card of the Week. Card of the Week. So the card of the week this week is Insight. It is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever one of your opponents plays a green spell, you may draw, or you draw a card. It's not a may ability. So I am basically analyzing the average number of cards that an opponent would draw past. Okay, let's just break this down. So the first thing I did was figure out how many decks have green in their color identity. So I figured that out through using the EDHREC data. I figured out that 149,000 out of 308,000 decks on the EDHREC database have green in their color identity. So that's 48% of decks. So the next thing I figured out is that that's an average of 1.44 decks per 4-player pod, and there's an 86% chance that you're gonna have an opponent who's playing green. So with that information, I figured out the exact. So what I did was I went on EDHREC, I used the average deck tool, which I'm not sure exactly how they collected that data. I've looked at a couple different things and I haven't been able to find it anywhere. So I'm not sure how they collected that data, but if it is actually representative of the average deck, which I'm hoping it is because I don't want my data to be errored, to have imperfections on it. What I did was I found out how many decks that have green in their color identity, how many cards they're playing that would trigger my insight. So I cut out cards that were 1 or 2 CMC that they would play before I cast insight. And then I just went down on different number of colors and I figured out exactly what the average number of cards that are green that you would cast past turn 3, and if you cast it on turn 3, I counted it as a half, because there's a 50% chance that they're before you and the 50% chance that they're after you. So I calculated that there's an average of 24.79 green cards in the average card deck with green in its color identity. I did weight that by the percentage of decks overall that the number of colors is. Not by overall, I mean within that one color. So I found out that there's a 1% chance you'll get 8. You'll draw 8 cards off of it. A 3% chance you'll get 7. 10% chance you'll get 6. 18% chance you'll get 5. 25% chance you'll get 4. A 15% chance you'll get 2. A 5% chance you'll get 1. And that is an average of 3.83 cards. Now, this number is deceiving for a lot of different reasons, such as the fact that it doesn't take into account mana fixing and mana just getting your lands in general, such as the fact that your opponents aren't going to cast every single card that they draw that has green in it, and also that they might just avoid casting a spell because of insight. So while there are a lot of errors, even if we round down to something like 3, we are still talking about great value in a card. So I don't know. What do you think about it? about
And
that.
not only that, though, it may prevent them from playing a card that is useful. Like, it may not be the best card in their hand, but whatever that green card is that they're holding off on playing because of Insight is something that they're preventing from giving themselves an advantage with.
Yeah. So that is actually really good. Thinking about, yes, this is not like
fantastic.
An instant staple. I'm not saying you should put it in every deck, but if you're thinking about it, if they don't cast that spell because you have that insight, you're still getting card advantage. They're saving that card and they're not casting it because of your spell. So, it's a great card, and if you have any way to benefit off of that enchantment, or if you just need that final card, don't feel bad about running Insight, because you have good odds. And also, I'm pretty sure there's not really a mathematically sound way of doing this, but there's an average of 1.44 people playing that deck. So even if that average is that 3, it's really sort of higher because there's 2 people, well, an average of 1.5 people running that experiment. You know what I mean by that? Like, the odds are higher that you'll get something a little bit higher than that number. Plus, you're getting that 1.5
and
players. So it's quite good, actually.
Yeah, it is a great card.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of off the top of my head, well, so it's a card that's really similar to Archidekt Study.
Yeah.
Which is also 2 and a blue, and it says whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may draw a card unless they pay 1.
Yeah.
So Archidekt Study ends up taxing them, whereas this, the only thing they can do about it is either not play green cards or remove it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about Insight over Archidekt Study is the fact that they just have to hold on to cards. And if you're playing against a mono green deck, that just means they can't cast anything.
Yeah.
If they want to not let you draw cards.
Right.
And the other thing that I think is fantastic about Insight is its cost. And not just the mana cost, but the actual cost of it.
Yeah.
Because, like, Archidekt Study, as great a card as it is, the cheapest market price for one on TCG Player right now is $17.51.
Yeah. And I just looked up.
Whereas the cheapest market price for Insight, $21.
Yeah. 21 cents. Obviously I'm not a large enough content creator to have an influence on the market, but if somebody does, but this could at any moment, if people find out about this card, if the general Magic population finds out, it could definitely go up. I don't know. I mean, it's not like, I don't think it's necessarily a staple at this point, but I do think it's one of the better blue card draws. Honestly, I actually messed this up. It should be higher than what I did because I got that 3.83 and I didn't multiply it by that 1.44, which I should, analyzing that. So it's actually higher than that.
So
never mind, it probably should be
3.83 times 1.44 is 5.5152.
That is just insane. That's so many cards. Even if we're rounding down, like I've said earlier, to a lower number because these numbers are imperfect and we don't know exactly what our opponents are going to do, we are still ending up with insane
even 3.5 cards
value.
Is good.
Yeah, we're just the amount of cards that we're getting off of this. It's just crazy value. Plus, I just completely discounted cards that have CMC 1 or 2. And we don't know when our opponents are going to draw those. If they don't draw them on turns 1 or 2, then we're going to end up with an even higher average. So, basically, run this card. It's amazing. I mean...
And another thing to think about is some of those, like, 1 and 2 drops are pump spells. Or, like, auras that they're going to cast later in the game on their bigger stuff. Oh, did you?
I actually counted those, yeah.
Okay.
So. But, yeah.
But, yeah, like...
I mean... Yeah. I mean, I might have missed some, but I think I counted everything.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, that also doesn't count any extra draw. I'm talking about turn 8, which does seem like it's really late, but almost all games are gonna go to that late, unless you're playing in like a really fast meta. I'm just talking about that mid-power level where most games end about turn 8. So we're talking about 15 cards. If your opponent sees more than 15 cards in a game, if your opponents that are playing green see more than that, then they're going to end up with even more. So it's just absolutely insane. And I mean, I want to say all the factors that I can't calculate for balance out, but there's no way I can calculate that in any scientific way. So you never really know. And I wish there were some way I could get better data. I'm actually going to start reaching out to the the people over at EDH Rec, because I'm getting all my data from them, but not as directly as I could be. So hopefully I can get better data. But until then, I will just work with my not perfect data. It's just a great card.
It really is a great card.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna probably have to pick up a couple of them.
Yeah. I will too, if I'm able to. So next up is I'm not sure exactly how, just a quick note, I'm not sure exactly how they gathered the average deck data. I might have said that already, but I'm not sure about that. So if that is not actually representative of an average deck within that commander, then that could be problematic. And this was actually not that bad of a analyzing. A couple of them have taken like 4 or 5 hours. This one only took me like 2 or 3, so that was good. Next up is So next up is some news. I think I'm gonna ditch the Commander's Rules segment. I just tried it out for 1 episode and I don't really love it. And the second thing is I'm gonna delete the first couple of episodes. Next time I'm going to say exactly which episodes I deleted, because I need to watch them to find out. But I just don't want that to be anyone's first impression or any impression. I'm here to entertain, and honestly, I have listened to them after I released them. I didn't do double checking my editing. I would just edit it and then release it. And when I did double check it just from listening to it after it was released, it didn't go together. I somehow messed up the order of the sound segments. The audio was terrible. I just don't want anyone to see that. I feel like it's sort of dishonest to take it down, but I feel like it's better to just make it so nobody has to see that. Alright, do you want to plug your content or have anything to say before we end the episode?
Just thanks for having me. It's been great being here, and I've enjoyed my time on the podcast with you.
Thanks for listening. You can find my personal archidekt at I'm a Johnny, AJOHNNY. You can find my Commander Quest, and with the link in the description below. You can find my Commander Quest account with the link in the description below, or at Commander Quest. You can see the link to my collection statistics in the description and my website. You can also visit my YouTube channel, Commander's Contingencies. Also, there's a link in the description below. I will also post any relevant links, such as the decks that I went over, or if there's any news, I will post links to my source or things that have more information. I will see you next week. Oh, there will also be time blocks to tell you what times certain things in the episode are happening.